Okay, tell me, what are the things you have learned where Anushka, what are the things you have learned? What are the things you need any help? You didn't understand? Let's discuss that first. And then we will move to
Amartya,
streaming API. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
like actually, I was trying to complete the trail, the use REST
Uh,
API, but
uh,
whenever I was means I have put everything, but the thing is that every time it's either showing some error or else right now it's showing invalid session
show
ID.
me. Show me. In
Okay.
Trailhead, how this can happen? Show me.
Yes, sure. Like, are you able to see my screen?
It is appearing.
Yeah. So like here I have tried to follow this like this way, but whenever I just today morning I have just do the I did the login, the instant the authentic authorization part, and then I just follow this one, and I don't know why it is happening. This is
Go to body.
yes, sure. Sorry.
So, in first thing is that when you are looking into this trailhead, I believe that is not for this postman. Now, for postman, first you have to get that authentication code, and then you have to use that authentication code to authorize. So, for that, I have given another link by which you can identify like where you have to put that authorization code.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so check that because you haven't put that authorization ID. That's why it is appearing.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
simple.
Okay. Okay. I will do that. Thank you.
What else?
I am not understand the HTTP request, sir. Like, can you explain it? Like,
Yeah, we can.
yeah.
Give me 1 minute. Yeah. So HTTP first thing is that HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So do you know what is protocol? Protocol is set of rules. Set of rules means by which something you can govern. Now, in this world of internet, when you are connecting, there needs to be like there are different types of browsers, there are different types of connections people are using. Then there must be something, some similarity in between by which it can be interpreted. Like otherwise you will try to do something and someone else will try to do the same thing in different way, and it will not be understood. So this hypertext transfer protocol, that protocol is the base or the rule or the guideline by which things will be actually measured, or by that rule whatever you are doing that will be guided. Now request is like hypertext trans HTTP request is with this protocol when you are writing any URL in your browser, okay, web browser, and you are clicking enter, or you are clicking send, or you are clicking go button, you are actually sending a request. Okay, so there is some server, there is basic concept of server and client. Server is something where you can send your request, and client is from where you can send your request and you can receive your response. So that is the client. So server means it can serve some purpose, it can give you something depending upon your request. So what is that request thing? Request is nothing but when you are putting something in your URL and clicking on send button. That is the request.
Okay, so that's mean whenever I am communicate the other system, that
Mhm.
is I am communicate the
You
other.
are sending request.
Yeah. So if they can give me the their I think their language, their link. So I am getting through the HTTP request, right?
Right.
Yeah. So if I am sending the request for the same thing, I am using the HTTP request.
Somebody, exactly. Somebody has given you some link and saying that with this username and password, you can log in. If you are doing that from the browser, you are sending the request. The same request you can send from your code. Okay. When you are writing code, the same thing you are doing, but you are doing from code. So that thing is actually when you are doing that from browser, that HTTP request and all these details, those are at the underlying thing, but you don't have to bother about that. But when you are writing the code, you need to know the whole thing. And that request, whatever you are sending, that is obviously HTTP request.
Yeah. Okay, understood.
Anyone else? আর কেউ কিছু পড়িসনি তার মানে? Have you completed the trailheads?
Sir, one thing. Hello.
Mhm.
Sir, for I have gone through some blogs and some concept of SOAP API concept. There I found something like web service method and some WSDL. So WSDL,
WSDL, right.
right, WSDL. So WSDL is we need to generate the what I have understood is we need to write a class with web service method in the server side, right? And we need to generate the whistle and that need to be shared with the client, and somehow that client will going to create an apex class on their system. Is that the understanding?
Right. If you were doing that from Salesforce,
Hmm.
like Salesforce is receiving, like in Salesforce, you want to generate your class and then hit the URL, then
Hmm.
that should be in Apex. If
Right.
that is some other language, like say Java, then you have to generate a class from Java, like in Java.
Hmm.
So you have to generate a class in Apex is uh, when
In
you are doing that from Salesforce perspective.
Salesforce. Hmm. And so that WSDL file, I what I have seen is like it is already written in XML format. So is it like a language that every site like
Exactly.
service?
Exactly. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. So HTML is one language that is a kind of a markup language.
Hmm.
XML is another markup language, but
Right.
that is also standardized. Like how you can write your XML, that obviously is standardized. When have you used VS Code in Salesforce?
Yes. Yes.
So when you look into the source, just go to any object or anything, you will see that there are XML tags that are actually used.
Hmm.
So it is simple. Like when you are using JSON, the key value pair, how you do that? You put the key, then you put the colon, then you put the value. Okay. That is
Right.
the format of JSON. In XML, it is like it will have, rather than key value pair, there will be tags. Okay. So there
Right.
would be root tag, there would be child tag. Like within something you are writing something means that is a child tag. In XML, you differentiate that with different types of brackets. Like if it is a collection of object, then there would be third bracket. Within that, all the individual records will be within second
The
bracket.
array of object, right?
Right. Here in XML, you will distinguish that using parent tag and child tag. And within those tags, your value will be there. So say you are trying to have set of objects,
Mm-hmm.
then the object tag would be the beginning of that object tag. Within that object tag, you have to include all the values. Now, within that object, say there are two different values. So say those are specific type of values or specific field values, then within that object tag there would be those field tags. So fields will be also starting with that angular bracket name. Say that field name is name and password. Then first there would be a tag called name or username. Within that tag, like you will put that value, and at the end you will close that tag with that
Okay.
slash. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will have another tag that is password. You will have the value and you will close the tag password. So that is the format of XML. Now we will check how we can generate classes from Wisdel, that we will go through. But before that,
Okay.
like if we are receiving that, if we are receiving some Wisdel from some other system, then
Mm-hmm.
in Salesforce, how we can interpret that, that I will show you. And that integration also requires few of the things, that is registering your endpoint. Okay.
Okay.
So that is one part, but there is some specifications, like there are some limitations in Salesforce that you have to consider. Before going to that, have you gone through the trailheads for this SOAP and REST API?
Yes, yes. From there, I got some idea, but not that much clear. So I tried some outsource.
Okay, okay, okay,
Actually,
let's
the
go through
clear
that.
vision is
Mhm.
not means like the vision is not clear till now, like soap and for soap and this. And also, I want to know that what exactly the flow like the step by step, like whenever I just need to connect through I understand that for we I have to create an app manager, the connected app in Salesforce, and then I can generate the consumer key and client ID, and after that I have to communicate in postman.
Right.
Yeah,
Before
otherwise the
before
connection.
going to that, first you have to understand what you are trying to do,
Yes.
whether you are connecting some other system or some other system is connecting Salesforce. Just give me 1 minute. I'm just getting one call.
Okay.
হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে ঠিক আছে। হ্যাঁ আমি পরে কানেক্ট করছি তো। Yes, so the thing is that when we are actually connecting another system, then the security part we have to we have to incorporate in our code. when we are actually providing someone this endpoint, or someone else is trying to, some other system is trying to connect Salesforce, then we have to provide this security to them, like how they can generate their token, access token, and all. So there are two different things. Let me share my screen. Just give me 1 minute. There is a very good diagram. Let me. I can. Where is the diagram? I shared that with you, but right, this one. So there are two different things. Look into this image. Here, what we are doing here, Salesforce is calling the service from some other system. So in that scenario, this other system will provide you the way to generate the token. So how you are going to, like, what username or password they will provide you, or they will tell you like after using this you have to do this to generate your token. Once you generate your token, then you will send this request. The validation and all the security related things will be taken care by this external system. Now think about the reverse scenario, when these arrows will be opposite, in opposite direction. There is a request is coming from this web service, request is coming from this system, and your web service is at Salesforce. So at that time you have to provide the uh, you have to like pile what you were saying, like uh, creating the connected app, putting providing that consumer secret and consumer key, and providing the URL. By hitting that URL, someone can get the actual what to say by hitting that URL you can get the access token, and with that access token you will, like, they can just call our service, call Salesforce service, and Salesforce will authenticate depending on that access token, and then it will return the value. So that thing will be happening when it is from the uh, other direction.
Means like whenever we are handshaking with postman, so like whenever we are doing the post means we are sending the request, right? We are sending the request to Salesforce to connect. If it is Salesforce to Salesforce, if it is another system to another system, so after that they we are receiving the instance URL, the access token, the thing that, and
Right.
we
So
have to
Postman is
authenticate that.
nothing but the simulation.
Mhm.
Okay, nothing but the simulation of a different system. So you do not have another system right now in your hand, right? And
Yes.
also there is another thing, that is there is some standardization. That is, if you can hit from Postman, Postman is giving you some environment by which you can simulate that from external system your request is coming towards, like, the request is coming to your system. So your system, if you have your system and if you can provide the those details, like, this is your consumer secret, this is your consumer key, and this is the username, password, this is the URL, all these things if you can provide to some system, how they know that whether that is working or not from their end. If they are just writing the code, uh, if there is some issue with their code, they cannot understand at that time, like if it is issue with your code, or like your whatever access you have provided, is it with that, or there is some issue with their code. So there is a again, Postman is giving two things at the same time. One is simulation by which you can connect, like the external system simulation, and also the standardization, that is, if you can hit through Postman, that means that is the standardized thing you have you have got, and you can use that, uh, details to actually connect to that system from your code as well. Right, got you,
Yes.
got my point.
Mm.
So initial thing is that you have to identify and you have to understand when that call out is happening, you are actually, like, Salesforce is calling out some other system, or some other system is calling out Salesforce. That's why the first class and second class also we have discussed about inbound and outbound call outs. Okay. So first we have checked how someone else can connect your system and your REST API. Using the REST API, how they can access that data. So first we have seen how that can be done through URL, like the standard out of the box Salesforce API, what Salesforce is providing. In the query, in the URL query, after that queue, like question mark queue equals to, then you can put the query by which you can directly access that data. If you need some manipulation or some other things to be done in between, in that scenario, we have to write the class that we have shown you. Like, we have checked that how we can do that. Like, we can just define that as a REST resource, we can provide the URL, and then we can just put the methods over there, right? So these are the methods. Now that is the part, and that, and also we have seen the code, like if I have to connect to some other system from Salesforce, then what I have to write, that code also I have given to you. Now these are the three things we have covered, which what we haven't covered, that is SOAP. Like, so for SOAP API, first thing is that when Salesforce is providing, like, uh, as Shubhajit was saying, like, first thing is that we have to understand two things. First thing is that when we are getting WSDL and when we are sending WSDL. So we would be sending WSDL or WSDL file uh, when someone else is trying to connect Salesforce, right? So there are two different things. Uh,
Sir, if we are getting the WSDL, then if one WSDL file, it is possible or not, sir? I'm asking. Like one WSDL file can create multiple Apex classes in our system, right?
Ideally, Salesforce cannot do that. So there is some limitation when we are parsing WSDL. I will come to that.
Okay.
Uh, so first thing is that WSDL, what is WSDL? So this is nothing but the XML format by which we are providing that data to that system. Now, with this WSDL, it will actually interpret and generate the corresponding class. Say when Salesforce is receiving that WSDL, that means Salesforce will be connecting that system, right? So that is outbound. When Salesforce is providing that WSDL, that means that is inbound. Is that part clear to everybody? Like when we are providing the WSDL and when we are consuming that WSDL, like when we are receiving the WSDL and when we are sending that WSDL.
Can you please repeat once more again?
Right. So there are two systems. Say this is Salesforce and this is the external system. So HTTP request and response, that will always happen, but whatever way I am trying to connect.
Mhm.
Now in REST, what is happening? Like we are calling out depending upon those security features, blah 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 blah. In JSON format, the data is going. All these things are fine, but who is providing you the connection details and the uh, uh, security details, all these things? Who is providing that? The system we are going to connect,
Yes.
right? If Salesforce is accessing some external system, then that system will provide you that endpoint URL, the username, password, and all these things, right? If external system is connecting Salesforce, then Salesforce will provide that. Like we have to create that connected app, we have to provide that username, password, and this consumer secret, consumer key, URL, everything we would be providing. The way we are providing here individual values, the same way WSDL will actually combine all these things within it. So that means if Salesforce is trying to access something of some other system, then that system will provide that WSDL, right? So in this scenario, whatever we are seeing here, the external system, this system will provide the WSDL to Salesforce. Salesforce will get that WSDL by email or by something. That should be a separate thing altogether. Once Salesforce receive that WSDL, Salesforce will parse that WSDL. Parsing means it will generate some class from there. Once that class is generated, you will get some methods. You have to call those methods from another Apex class to get that data. Clear till now?
Yes, sir.
So that means when Salesforce is consuming external service, Salesforce is consuming the WSDL as well. That external service will provide that WSDL to Salesforce. Now, on the other hand, the reverse thing will happen when some external system is connecting Salesforce. In that situation, Salesforce has to provide that WSDL.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Now, I believe it is clear that
Yes.
who the system who is providing that access, that system will provide the details as well. Like this is my system. If some other system is trying to connect my system, then I have to provide my details to that system, right? That might be in JSON format, that might be in XML format. Now if it is JSON and we are using REST, then we will provide the endpoint URL, username, password, blah 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 blah, all these things. If I am if that system is using SOAP and we have to connect through SOAP, then that system will provide the wisdom. As simple as that.
Yes. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here I have a question. Like
Mhm.
if we have the option to create a SOAP API and as well as a REST API, so what is the thing that we will make the decision that in this case we need to use
There
REST?
are multiple considerations. So
Okay, that
first
is
thing
what
is
I
that,
am confused about.
right. So first thing is that preferred thing is always REST API. Why so? you can always look into any JSON file and you can look into one XML file. You will see that because of the format of the XML, because of the format of the tags, it is always heavyweight. Heavyweight means the size of a JSON file and the size of one XML file for the same thing. Always the XML file size will be more. You have to go through uh, multiple tags. You have to go through more words, rather to, I would say, more uh, stuff you have to parse, rather than you have to do that in JSON. Okay, so SOAP is primarily using XML. In REST also we can do the XML, use the XML, but in general we don't do that. There is no point to do that. But so generally we don't do this thing. Now there are few basic things to be considered. Now so just understand this thing, like JSON is relatively lightweight than XML, and XML is generally heavier than JSON. So always it will give you some additional time, or it will give you, say, reduced time when you are working with JSON. So that is the important thing. Now the other thing is that when you are connecting to some other system, whether that system is able to provide you SOAP or REST, that is up to that system whether they can do that or not. Now, if they can provide both, in that situation you have to check. You ideally you should be using REST, because that will give you the JSON format, right? And there are different types of connectivity. You can use different type of connectivity flow, like that we will go through, like Salesforce. So you can see here, after authorization, you can get this connected app thing here. Okay. Uh, Create a connected app, edit a connected app, manage access, blah, 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 blah. You can get it. After that, what kind of flow you are going to use? You have all these flows, like headless forget password flow, OAuth to web server flow, OAuth to user agent flow. This is for actually mobile and desktop integration. OAuth to refresh token flow for renewed session. So this is the refresh token thing you have to do. Pile, this is for you. Okay. Then OAuth to authorization and session management for hybrid apps. Then OAuth to JWT bearer flow for server to server integration. What is server to server integration? That is, you have one server, you have another server, you are just connecting from one server to another server. So the what we are doing right now, that is the same thing. Now, OAuth to client credential flow. OpenID Connect Dynamic Registration, OAuth 2 Device Flow for IoT Integration, OAuth 2 Asset Token Flow for securing connected devices, OAuth 2 Username Password Flow for special scenarios. So there are so many flows, and OAuth 2 authorization errors. You can find the errors here. So Salesforce is saying that OAuth 2 JWT bearer flow, that is the most suggested flow, and that will give you maximum security thing. So how you can do that? The tools and the definitions all are there, but it is little complex. That's why I haven't come to this at the first point. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, please ping me the program.
I will provide the whole link to you all
Okay.
in the group.
Mhm.
So what is that JSON, how that needs to be claimed, and once that is done, then how you can implement this. So this is the external construct of a JWT bearer token. It is Java code which is actually generating that JWT. Okay. Then request access token. The process is the same. Previously you were using that username password to get the access token. Here you would be using the JWT. Okay, Java Web Token. So that will actually, by that you will identify it, and then you will identify this, you will get this access token, and with that you will actually do the connection. Okay, Salesforce grant access token, how you can provide that and what you actually provide. Token type bearer. So this is the same kind of thing as you were seeing when you were connecting from Postman to get the access token. Okay. So with these all these flexibilities, it is suggested that you should go for REST API rather than the uh, what to say that SOAP. Got your answer?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I was looking for some XML previously. I forgot. Check that. Let me check that quickly if I can get that. Get one XML. Sorry, the WSDL by which we will do this thing. So and also we have to just look into two things. First thing is that when we are sending WSDL from Salesforce, there are two different types of WSDL. One is partner WSDL, one is enterprise WSDL. There is nothing to explain there rather than whatever is written in your in Salesforce help documents. Let me just give you the details. Partner. So I'm not sharing my screen probably.
Yes.
So what is the difference between Salesforce provided WSDL files? So there are two types of WSDL. One is enterprise WSDL, one is partner WSDL. How you can download WSDL file? There are steps given here. So, what is actually different and what it will contain when you are providing WSDL? What it will contain? So Salesforce provides a the web service description language file. Those are called enterprise WSDL and partner WSDL. A WSDL is a XML document which contains a standardized description on how to communicate using a web service. The Salesforce API is exposed as a web service. Okay, so the WSDL is used by the developer to aid the creation of Salesforce integration pieces. A typical process involves using the development environment, whatever it is, to consume the WSDL and generate classes which are then referenced in the integration. Now, what is enterprise WSDL? The enterprise WSDL is strongly typed. The enterprise WSDL is tied uh, to a specific configuration of Salesforce, like a specific org, like from which org you are actually providing all these things. These things are actually tightly coupled. Okay, the enterprise WSDL changes if modification is done on the configuration are made to an organization's Salesforce configuration. If you change anything, that your enterprise WSDL will be changed. The enterprise WSDL is intended primarily for customers. Now, partner WSDL. The partner WSDL is loosely typed. What is loosely typed? The partner WSDL can be used to reflect against uh, any configuration of Salesforce. The partner WSDL is static, so you don't need to generate it multiple times, and hence does not change if modifications are made to an organization's Salesforce configuration. So Salesforce, if you are doing some configuration change in your org, then your partner WSDL will not change, but your enterprise WSDL will change. So if you are providing enterprise WSDL to anybody, you have to remember after doing any change, you have to regenerate the enterprise WSDL and share that. Okay. So, in which scenario you will provide WSDL to whom? Say there is one application which is connecting Salesforce. Now you have to understand first thing is that the client application directly accessing Salesforce and there is nothing else. Then you will provide the enterprise WSDL. If that system is another parallel system of Salesforce or say partner of Salesforce and uh, you want to provide them some access so that uh, whatever changes you are doing in your org, that is not going to hamper their work. In that scenario you will provide the partner wisdom. Okay, so for now you can just think about it that you will provide enterprise wisdom to the people, and if there is any change you will regenerate that wisdom and you will provide that. So this is a kind of hectic and useless overhead, having some overhead process. Okay, so that's why always try to go for REST integration when you are providing some access to um, any external system, and most of the system are nowadays can access REST API. Okay, how you can generate the WSDL? I will suggest generate one WSDL from your dev org. Okay, in Lightning you have to do that. Generate one WSDL from your org. Open that once you save that file locally, it will be .wsdl file. Open that with Notepad or any text editor. Just open that and read through it and try to understand what is there. If you can do that, and if you look into it, you will understand that. So, and also if you don't understand, that does not create any issue, because from your part you can only do one thing. You can generate that wisdom and you can give that to that person who is trying to connect Salesforce. That's what you have to do. So that is the part of when we are actually providing wisdom. But the other part, what we have to do is that we have to check what we have to do when we are actually accessing some file, or I would say some wisdom we are actually consuming. Okay. So let me just log in my Salesforce and let's see what is there. Uh, it is in classic. Okay. Oh, let me share my screen. I was just trying to find if there is any open wisdom what we can get, because there is no such system which can actually uh, give you that wisdom directly. So I was actually trying to load one wisdom from my system and trying to bind it, like trying to generate this from where I can come to this Apex classes, generate from wisdom. I can just choose one file. Then I have to click parse wisdom. Failed to parse wisdom, found more than one wisdom binding. Wisdom with multiple binding not supported. Now, what does that mean? This is one of the issue you are going to face when you are doing this. So let me open that file first.
Last day I was facing due to the namespace. There is another issue for namespace.
Namespace, yes, might be. Let's see how that works. So first thing is that look into this. WSDL definition. This is the first tag. What is this? Schema and blah 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 blah. Then so It is providing some service from Microsoft.com. Okay. And you can get these elements, whatever is written there. But the important part is what is binding. So once we provide these things, then we have to actually, and these are the actual messages, whatever you are going to see. Um, but the important part is this digital port. What is port? So first thing is that calculator SOAP 12. Calculator SOAP 12 probably is not being used anywhere. Let me check that. Right. So what is it? First thing is that whenever we are doing any work, or we are having any WSDL, and we have to parse that. Parse means we have to generate the Apex class from there. The first important thing you have to know that there should not be multiple ports to be bound to that thing. So what is this port? These are virtual ports. Like whenever you are actually opening something, like HTTP runs on standard port 80. Okay. So when you are actually providing any service to anyone outside of your system, or even inside in your system, there are a couple of things you have to consider. There are virtual ports and there are physical ports. So when we had those internet connection, the Ethernet one, and we have just inserted that jack within, like there is a place where we had to insert that jack by which it can connect to that internet. That is a physical port. Okay. So that physical port is a place where you can plug in the cable and you can connect to something. The same concept happens in internet when you are providing any service from a system. So you have a server means it is a system. Okay, it is a computer. Now, when you are providing any service from that system, it might happen, and it always happens, that you will provide multiple functionalities from that port. Okay, so when you were providing multiple services from that single physical port, because there is only one Ethernet port by which you have connected, or there is some other connection that is actually getting connected. Now, how that works? That works with different ports. You will have the, like, the IP address of that physical machine would be the same. So with that IP address, it will hit to that server. But which service it is providing, that will be identified by the port. So when you are actually going to any URL, there is some IP address at the background of that thing, and there is a port, either 8080. Somewhere you will find that after that IP address there would be some colon, and then there would be some value 80808182. These are different port numbers you are getting there. And as it is not a physical port, so you can provide some other thing as well to bind it. Okay, so binding means you are binding one service to one port. In same port, you cannot execute or you cannot provide two services. So most of the time, if you have installed different things in your computer, nowadays you don't face this kind of issues. But previously, what happened, like there are multiple, everyone is trying to provide their own port. But the thing is that sometimes those ports get clashed in Windows system mostly. So in that system, when you are executing one program, say you are using MySQL client, and or say MySQL server, and there is some other server you are trying to use, and that is also using the same port, then there would be a clash. You cannot execute both the ports in like both the services at the same time, because both were using the same port. So what you had to do, you had to change those ports, change the port number for any of these service. But here in Salesforce, you cannot create multiple ports binding, like you cannot bind multiple ports from one single WSDL. You can see this WSDL binding and the name, calculator soap 12. So there should be another binding. This is WSDL name, calculator show. So WSDL port type, calculator soap. Message is fine. Let me just check the different bindings as well. So, what you have to do, so this WSDL binding with this name, it will identify with this name. Okay. So, with this thing, it will actually try to bind this thing with this name. Now, this is the second binding. This is the second WSDL binding. It is giving you the literals and all. Okay, so what you have to do in this situation, what you have to do? First thing, you have to remove this binding. Second binding, whatever you are getting, second or third binding, you have to remove that. This is not going to work. I have kept this separately for some reason. I will tell you later. Now, this service, within this service, actually you will find how many ports are there, how many ports are actually created. Where is that other one? Anyway, you have to delete this port. Fine. So now you have only one port and one port binding with this. Let's try to use this. Look, parsing successful. So how it is successful or why it is successful? Because the we had two bindings, two port bindings within that WSDL. So that's how when you are receiving WSDL, first thing what you have to do, you have to open that WSDL and check this section. Check this section, that is WSDL service. This tag WSDL service. Within that you will get the ports. How many ports are there? Right now there is only one port. Previously there were two ports. Okay. So that's why mm, I haven't actually copied this one. Anyway, uh, so now that means you have taken out something from this WSDL, and now it is good for you to generate the uh, you can generate, you can put the name, class name as well here. But anyway, now you are generating that Apex class. So that means some functionality you have taken out. So then what you can do to bring that back? Actually, what you have to do, you have to break this WSDL into two parts. One part, like all these things, all these header and other things will be there. Okay, till this part, till this binding part. Before this binding part, whatever is there, you will put it in one WSDL. You will create another WSDL where till this part everything would be the same. Only this, for this binding part, whatever service port you are using here, that binding would be in that WSDL. So if I have to create another WSDL from here with that the one I have already removed, then what I have to do, I have to copy this whole part. And this is not only that upper part, the lower part also I have to provide. This port should not be here. Okay. So what I have to do, I have taken the whole part probably, so that I had to remove. So you can see this binding. After this port binding service, there is the closing tag. That also you have to provide. So what you have done, from your original WSDL, you have taken this WSDL type, the data schema details. This might be getting used by both the services. Okay. And the message thing also, I believe it should be there. Now, what you have done, you have come to this WSDL service part. You have seen that initially there were two. So what is that service name? Calculator, right? And what is the port? There were two ports, calculator soap 12. So with this port name, what service is provided? That you can find it from here, mm, with this binding name, calculator soap, right? For the other one, you will find that uh, that binding name. Look at this binding name. That is calculator soap 12. And your port name is also the same. So with the port name, you can find out what service it is getting provided. Okay. By which location you will get that, what is the service, what service is provided. So Salesforce cannot parse XML WSDL having multiple port within that WSDL. So if I have to save this, I have to just save it in this way. Here, it didn't work, so I have to change the extension. So here actually this one, it should be only like this. This html should not be there, so I cannot parse it right now. But anyway, uh, I just wanted to show you how to create that new one. Like if you have multi-port binding, that means you would have that port name or port number. Also, what service that port is providing. So these two things will actually be different for different ports. You have to take the initial data and other part and then break it into, if there are multiple ports, you have to break it down into two different XML. This thing is called multi-port binding. Salesforce does not support multi-port binding. Okay, so let's see if we try to generate this class, whether it is getting generated or not. Look, the following generated class completed successfully. There are two classes which are generated. Let's look into those two classes. These are nothing but internal wrapper class. So don't worry about these things. Generated by Wisdel to Apex. This one, Salesforce by default, they add it by default. Uh, Public class, calc soap, and you can see all these things. The request and response things are already there. Simple addition, multiplication, all these things are there. So web service call out future, like this is the asynchronous call out with the initial name. Salesforce has created this so that you can actually call this out. So future call out you already know, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So that future call out is happening, but call out future, ideally that should call the return async calc. So this async one is already generated, and these are actually the arguments. So here we have taken one example where we do not have the exact things or exact details provided. Like if I have to do addition, like this is a calculator program. If I have to do addition or subtraction or something, for that you will have these specifications, like you have to call the methods. Like say for addition you have to call this method. Here also you have that add method. This is subtract. something like that you will get multiply and all. So once this is generated, you will only try to access this. But for this one, we do not have those details. Like one WSDL file, when you have created, you can see there are multiple methods. There can be multiple classes internally, and all these things can be there. So you need to know which one to call. Okay. But before that, there is another thing, that is the base or root URL that you have to add in the endpoint. The endpoint URL needs to be added. I think this is the base URL which we are using. So this base URL also you have to take from the from whoever is giving you this XML. Just ask for what is the base URL, but because that you have to add in your endpoint. Uh, what is that? Was that endpoint URL or I will confirm this. Previously, it was actually this is something you have to provide. That is the trusted URL. There is the endpoint URL as well. So let me check that whether that is the trusted URL or not. Formats. Hopefully this is the thing, but I will confirm you once. So why we have to add this in trusted URL? Because Salesforce is saying whenever you are doing these call outs, you would be redirecting to some site which is not within Salesforce. So if Salesforce cannot identify that this is the trusted site, then we cannot allow you to do that redirection. So when you are calling this, you are actually connecting to some other URL. From there, some service will be provided and you will get back some data. But that redirection is not allowed from Salesforce until and unless that is a trusted site. Like Salesforce, how Salesforce should know that this site is trusted for my application? For that, it needs to be added in the trusted site. Endpoint URL, I will check that once again and I will confirm like where do we have to add that. Okay, where we have to add that endpoint URL. What I can do, I can just provide you this calculated thing. Or you can just try to download you can just try to download any free open WSDL, which you can just parse, try to parse of your own, and just check what happens. If you have proper documentation for that, then you can access that as well. But to access that, you need to know the details. For this one, I have just downloaded quickly just to show the demo, like how we can create that, what can happen after generating it. Okay, so this is the thing you have to do when somebody is sending you wisdom. Nowadays, 99% scenario, you will not get this. Any question?
So one thing only, if we are trying to generate the wisdom from the Apex class, then the class need to be global class, right?
You are trying to generate wisdom from Apex class. That part I haven't shown you till now. Like in your wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
which class or method would be included in your if you are providing any wisdom, that part I haven't shown.
Okay.
Obviously, that needs to be a global class. Obviously,
Mhm. Okay.
not only global class. Like this is simple. Uh, am I sharing my screen? No. Let me share it. So there are so many things. I am just this is the one you have to follow. Your method must be web service. We will discuss this next day. Anyway, there is not much to discuss, but I don't want to overburden you because though it is small, I have already covered a lot today.
It's a bit tricky to understand.
No, yeah, you may say, but this is very simple. Like soap is very simple and very mechanical. You do not have much things to do. You need to know the steps and you need to follow those steps. For JSON, there are different things you can do. Like if you are just providing standard JSON, then it is fine. Otherwise, what you can do, you can just generate the JSON depending upon your query and then format it. Like you can formulate the JSON manually, or you can use that serialize and deserialize functions or methods by which you can generate that and read that as well. So if you like in JSON, you have to do much more. SOAP is quite limited. You don't have to do much things, but there are lots of overhead of SOAP because as you can see, if I only need the add method from the calculator and I don't need the other things, then also I had to consume this whole thing. And now, if I have to just keep the like my code is quite big because there are three more methods which is already included. Then if I have to exclude them, then I have to go to that class and manually I have to remove that, right? But for JSON, it is quite simple. Like you can just expose the only those things what you want. For SOAP, it is very difficult. Like for JSON, it is like sorry, for REST, it is simple. Like you have the endpoint. With that endpoint, you are going to get one service. But for SOAP, you can see that multiple services are getting clubbed somewhere. There are multiple methods which is actually provided, and whether you need or not, that will be as part of that. All these things will be there. So SOAP has lots of overhead, specifically the XML by which it communicate that data. It understand data in XML format. So itself XML is a heavy, or a, you can say a loaded thing. Heavy data you are passing through internet channels. So SOAP can always, like, there is a possibility that uh, high possibility every time if you are implementing REST and if you are implementing SOAP for same functionality, REST will work better. That will provide more faster response. SOAP will provide relatively slower response. Clear? Nothing is clear. Everything is clouded. I can understand.
Yes, sir.
We are
Yes.
confused more and more.